Hello everyone, welcome to another Classic Movie Monday, and today I'm going to be briefly diving into another classic movie that came out, I believe, in 1979 if I'm not mistaken, so it is pretty old. And when you look at the actors and how young they are, you go, wow, time has really flown, hasn't it? And that film is titled Apocalypse Now, as you probably see by the title and thumbnail. Now, regardless of how you feel about this particular film, it still did leave, I think, a significant impact. It still remains to be remembered as one of those great war films that sort of talks about things that usually war films don't talk about, and does things in a way that usually war films don't really, at least takes an approach that most war films don't take. And I think it's definitely safe to say that it lives up to those two things. But again, you can obviously have differing opinions on this film. But it seems to hold, I think, a genuinely positive consensus. Excuse me. Um, Now, this is supposed to take place during the height of the Vietnam War. And the main character, Captain Willard, who's played by Martin Sheen, and boy, does Martin Sheen look young in this movie. um, uh, he's basically sent on a mission to look for this colonel named Walter Kurtz. And the army believes that this guy has gone completely insane, and he and the guy that's gone insane, Walter, apparently has traveled to Cambodia, um, where basically he is taking out the Viet Cong that's there. And basically a lot of his missions, I guess, or at least his missions are they believe to be designed to be sort of hit and runs against against the Viet Cong. And um, and so the whole goal really behind Captain Willard trying to find this guy is basically to just kind of take him out, because the army has no control over him, which I think really highlights something rather interesting, and again, that is really unique to the Vietnam War, and that's the whole kind of anti-war sentiment that was going on during the time, and the anti kind of authoritarian uh, side that was going on during that time. And I think Walter's character sort of plays into that kind of, I guess, rebellion of going against the orders really of the army and sort of taking things into his own hands. And it's more so in the opposite way of what you would initially expect, because most people were sort of against war, or a lot of people were against the Vietnam War, but Walter takes it to sort of the extreme of being kind of this hero, kind of renegade, going out and fighting the Viet Cong. And basically, though, throughout Captain Willard's journey to go find Walter, he basically takes a boat with some other guys in the army, and they sort of travel up to what eventually is Cambodia, and you sort of see throughout pretty much the majority of the movie how they encounter various different things along the way. And initially, Captain Willard's mission is secret, so the people on the boat that the other people that go with him on the boat to where he wants to go, don't really know why he's going, where he's going. And you'll sort of see how that kind of how that kind of impacts things as they sort of go as they start traveling along, I believe it's really a river, really, um, within Vietnam to Cambodia. Uh, and what makes this film, I think, rather unconventional is the fact into how it executes the scenes. You really do see the kind of, uh, again, horror that oftentimes is associated with a lot of war films, but it does it in a way that is very more along the lines of being psychological. Most war films just kind of strip it down and just show you the brutality, the struggle, and the ultimate triumph and heroism, or what, etc., etc. But with this particular film, it's really about sort of interpreting the war through the mind, and how the psychology of the horrible things that the people within the film witness really impacts the way in which the film is sort of presented. And that's quite interesting, and really does display something that isn't all too common within war films. Usually you don't really get that odd and haunting feeling. Usually it's one of horror, sadness, but then you feel maybe a little bit of a sense of heroism or whatnot. Um, so again, I liked how they took this more so unique approach. Also, what's great about this film is the way in which it displays the environment of Vietnam. The way in which the Vietnam War was orchestrated was a lot different than the wars from the past. You were basically in the jungle, you really didn't have a real sense of understanding of where things were or how the environment is, and you can really see how out of element the characters kind of are, and you almost think like, why are these people even here? It's very um, you see how exotic it is, and then you also see how bizarre and strange it is as well, because again, it's not like a lot of other wars that have been around where you sort of have a set kind of battlefield and two sides are going at it from each other, whereas in Vietnam it's kind of just here and there people popping out of nowhere and causing some havoc or whatnot. And you sort of see the chaos that ends up ensuing throughout the film, um, as a result of, again, it being really not like any real traditional war that we've really seen. And some parts of it are obviously very Hollywood. You could definitely argue that as well. And some parts are probably a little bit ridiculous. And you kind of wonder, really, was that really necessary or whatnot? But despite its various flaws, which I think you could argue over, I think its overall intent and the way in which Walter says the horror, and the way in which it captures the mind in that way. And when you ultimately see Walter's story and how he's not just, kind of this bad guy, he kind of just got messed up because of the circumstances that he was in, you really do see the pain and the real genuine disorientation that comes with having to experience something like war, and in particular, in this case, experience the Vietnam War. And I think, though, that's really ultimately all I can say, though, about the film, though, without really giving too much away. I think it's definitely an interesting one, and I believe it was directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and I think that this is probably his most second famous of films next to The Godfather. So I think it is definitely up there. If you like his kind of style, I think if you like his style and his way of approaching films, this will probably be something that you'll enjoy. But I think that, again, that's really ultimately all I can say about it. If there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope to see you on the next video. Take care. Bye.